The massive research vessel Pioneer dropped out of hyperspace with a gentle shudder. Commander James Reed stood at the bridge's main viewport, his eyes fixed on the blue-green planet below. After 6 months of space travel, they had finally reached their destination, Planet XO3, a world that had caught Earth's attention due to its unusual energy readings. Orbital position achieved, Commander, reported Mike, the ship's pilot. His fingers danced across the holographic controls, making final adjustments to their position. All systems are stable. Reed nodded, running a hand through his graying hair. At 45, he had seen his fair share of new worlds, but something about this one felt different. The initial scans had detected ruins of an advanced civilization, but no signs of current inhabitants. It was as if an entire species had simply vanished. "Tom, what are the atmospheric readings?" Reed asked, turning to his chief scientist. "Breathable atmosphere, Commander. Gravity is 1.1 times Earth standard. Temperature at the landing zone is 22 degrees Celsius. It's almost too perfect." Tom's voice carried a hint of suspicion. In their line of work, things that seemed too good to be true usually were. Reed gathered his ground team in the ship's briefing room. Maps and preliminary scan data floated in the air as holograms, casting a blue glow over the faces of his crew. "Listen up, people. This is a standard survey mission with potential archaeological elements. We'll land near the largest concentration of ruins. Full environmental suits until we verify the air is safe. Stay alert and stay together." 2 hours later, their shuttle touched down in a clearing surrounded by strange metallic structures covered in vines. The ruins stretched toward the sky like the skeletal fingers of a giant hand. The team of 6 emerged from the shuttle, their boots crunching on grass that seemed just a shade too purple to be Earth-like. "These structures," Tom said, scanning the nearest building with his handheld device, "they're made of an alloy I've never seen before. The level of technology here must have been incredible." Reed walked ahead, his trained eyes scanning their surroundings. Years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming that something was off. The ruins were too well preserved for a civilization that had supposedly disappeared thousands of years ago. As they moved deeper into the city, they found more signs of the previous inhabitants. Strange symbols covered the walls, and occasionally they would find pieces of technology that still hummed with residual power. But it was what they found in the central plaza that made them stop in their tracks. "Commander," called Lisa, their xenobiologist, "you need to see this." In the center of the plaza stood a massive holographic projector, somehow still functional after all this time. As they approached, it flickered to life, projecting an image that made the blood freeze in their veins. The creature in the hologram was unlike anything they had seen before. Sleek, powerful, with rows of bioluminescent markings along its body. But it was the eyes that caught Reed's attention, intelligent, predatory, and somehow familiar. That's a shadow hunter," Tom whispered, his voice trembling. "The apex predators of the galaxy, the species that even the most advanced civilizations fear to encounter." Reed had heard the stories. Every spacefaring race knew about the shadow hunters. They were said to be incredibly intelligent, impossibly fast, and utterly lethal. No one who had encountered them alone had ever survived to tell the tale. Yet here was proof they had been on this planet. "Look at these markings," Lisa said, pointing to some scratches on the projector's face. "These are fresh, maybe a few days old at most." The implications hit Reed like a physical blow. This wasn't just an archaeological site. It was an active territory. They were standing in the middle of a shadow hunter hunting ground. As if to confirm his realization, a low, resonant sound echoed through the ruins. The entire team froze. It wasn't the wind, and it definitely wasn't mechanical. Something was out there, watching them. "Back to the shuttle," Reed ordered, keeping his voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through his system. "Slow and steady. No sudden movements." As they carefully retraced their steps, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that their real mission was just beginning. They had come looking for answers about a lost civilization. Instead, they had stumbled into the lair of the galaxy's most feared predators. And somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes were watching their every move. The storm came out of nowhere. One moment, Reed and his team were making their way back to the shuttle, and the next, they were fighting against winds strong enough to knock a person off their feet. Purple lightning crackled across the sky, illuminating the alien ruins in brief, frightening flashes. "Everyone, hold on to something," Reed shouted over the howling wind. The storm was unlike anything in their weather forecasts. Through his helmet's display, he could barely make out the shapes of his team members struggling against the gale. A massive gust separated Reed from the group, sending him tumbling backwards. He rolled several times before managing to grab onto a piece of fallen metal. When he looked up, his team was nowhere in sight, and his radio crackled with nothing but static. "This is Commander Reed. Does anyone copy?" Only the storm answered him. His suit's navigation system was scrambled, leaving him stranded in the maze of alien structures. With the wind growing stronger and debris flying everywhere, he knew he needed shelter fast. Reed spotted an opening in one of the nearby buildings. Using the lightning flashes as guidance, he half crawled, half stumbled his way to the entrance. The interior was dark but dry, and most importantly, out of the wind. His suit's lights flickered on, revealing a large room filled with what looked like ancient computer terminals. As he caught his breath, a sound made him freeze. It wasn't the wind or falling debris. It was a labored breathing, coming from deeper within the room. Reed's training told him to stay quiet and leave immediately. But another sound changed everything. A pained whimper, followed by the scraping of claws on metal. Against every survival instinct, Reed moved toward the sound. His light beam swept across the room until it landed on something that made his heart skip a beat. There, lying against a fallen column, was a shadow hunter. The creature was even more impressive than the hologram had shown. It was roughly the size of a small horse, with sleek, dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed weakly along its sides and its eyes, golden and intelligent, fixed on Reed with a mixture of pain and wariness. Reed could see why it hadn't attacked. A large piece of metal debris had pierced its side, pinning it to the ground. Dark fluid that must have been blood pooled beneath it. The creature's breathing was shallow and irregular. "You're hurt," Reed said softly, knowing it probably couldn't understand his words, but hoping his tone would convey his meaning. The shadow hunter's head tilted slightly, its eyes never leaving him. Reed's medical training kicked in. Injured animal or not, he couldn't just leave a suffering creature to die. He slowly reached for his medical kit, making each movement deliberate and visible. The shadow hunter watched him, but made no aggressive moves. "I'm going to help you," Reed said, keeping his voice steady. "But you have to promise not to eat me." As if understanding the attempt at humor, the creature's bioluminescent patterns flickered in an almost rhythmic way. Reed took this as a good sign and moved closer, step by step. When he was within arm's reach, he carefully set down his medical kit and opened it. The shadow hunter's eyes followed his every move. Reed pulled out a medical scanner and slowly ran it over the creature's wound. The scanner beeped, showing that while the injury was serious, it had missed vital organs. "Okay, this is going to hurt," Reed warned, preparing a painkiller spray. To his surprise, the shadow hunter remained still as he applied the medicine. Its patterns began to pulse in a different rhythm. And suddenly Reed felt a strange sensation in his mind, a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the ancient building, something unprecedented was happening. A human and a shadow hunter, species that were supposed to be mortal enemies, were forming an unlikely connection. As Reed worked to treat the wound, he realized that everything he knew about these creatures might be wrong. In the shadow hunter's eyes, he saw not the mindless predator of legend, but an intelligent being capable of trust and understanding. He just hoped his team would believe him, if he survived long enough to tell them. The storm outside had finally calmed, but Reed remained in the ruins with his unusual patient. 6 hours had passed since their first encounter, and the Shadowhunter's condition was slowly improving. Reed had managed to remove the metal debris and seal the wound using his medical kit's tissue regenerator. The creature, which Reed had started calling Swift due to the quick, flowing movements of its bioluminescent patterns, was now sitting upright. Its golden eyes followed Reed as he checked the healing wound once again. "You're recovering faster than anything I've ever seen," Reed said, amazed at how quickly the injury was closing. Swift's patterns flickered in response, and Reed felt another gentle touch in his mind. Over the past hours, he had realized these mental contacts weren't random. They were attempts at communication. A sudden series of images flashed through Reed's mind. A pack of Shadowhunters running through dense jungle, a fierce battle with another group of predators, Swift being separated and injured, the pack forced to leave their wounded member behind. The mental pictures were so clear that Reed had to sit down. "So that's what happened to you," he said quietly. "Your pack had to retreat and couldn't wait for you to heal." The patterns along Swift's flanks pulsed sadly, confirming his understanding. Reed pulled out some emergency rations from his suit's storage compartment. He was getting hungry, and he figured his patient might need food too. As he opened a protein bar, Swift's head perked up, nostrils flaring with interest. "Want some?" Reed held out half of the bar. Swift carefully took it, displaying rows of sharp teeth that could have easily torn through Reed's suit. Instead, the Shadowhunter delicately ate the offered food, then sent another mental image, this one of gratitude mixed with curiosity about the strange taste. Reed laughed. "Yeah, it's not exactly gourmet food, but it's better than nothing." A new set of images flooded his mind. Other alien species running in terror, ships firing weapons, hunters setting traps. Reed understood. Swift was showing him why Shadowhunters were so feared across the galaxy. "They don't understand you, do they?" Reed said. "They see predators, but not the intelligence behind those eyes." Swift's patterns glowed brighter, and Reed felt a strong sense of affirmation. Reed pulled out his tablet and began recording notes. "The bioluminescent patterns aren't just for show," he muttered to himself. "They're a form of communication, working together with the telepathic abilities. The patterns might indicate emotional states or emphasize specific meanings." Swift moved closer, curious about the device. Reed turned the screen so the Shadowhunter could see it. "I'm documenting everything I learn about you. If we can understand each other better, maybe we can change how the galaxy sees your kind." The creature's patterns shifted to a new configuration Reed hadn't seen before. Through their mental link, he felt a mixture of hope and skepticism. Swift had experienced too much fear and hatred from other species to believe change would come easily. Reed's radio suddenly crackled to life, making both of them jump. "Commander Reed, do you copy? This is the Pioneer. We've been searching for you since the storm cleared." Before Reed could respond, Swift's head snapped toward the entrance. New images filled Reed's mind. More Shadowhunters approaching, Swift's pack returning to check if their wounded member had survived. "Looks like we're both about to have company," Reed said, standing up. He felt surprisingly calm about the idea of meeting more Shadowhunters. "Think you can convince your family not to eat my crew?" Swift's patterns rippled in what Reed now recognized as amusement. The mental image he received was clear. Swift would protect him, just as he had protected Swift. As Reed heard both human voices and soft predatory sounds approaching from different directions, he realized he was about to become part of something historic. Either he would be remembered as the first human to successfully communicate with Shadowhunters, or as the fool who trusted the galaxy's deadliest predator. Looking at Swift's confident posture and feeling the strength of their newly formed bond, Reed was betting on the first option. The entrance to the ruins echoed with approaching footsteps from both directions. Reed stood beside Swift, his heart pounding but his stance steady. The first to arrive was his team. led by Tom and Lisa, their weapons drawn. "Commander, get away from it," Tom shouted, raising his stun rifle. Before Reed could respond, 3 more shadow hunters emerged from the opposite entrance, their massive forms filling the doorway. Swift's pack had returned. "Everyone, lower your weapons," Reed ordered, keeping his voice calm. "No one needs to get hurt here." His crew looked at him like he'd lost his mind, but they slowly lowered their rifles. Swift's patterns began to pulse rhythmically, and the other shadow hunters responded with their own light displays. Through their mental connection, Reed felt Swift explaining everything that had happened. The other shadow hunters' golden eyes shifted from threatening to curious. "Commander," Lisa whispered, "are they talking to each other?" Reed nodded. "The patterns aren't just for show. They're a language, combined with telepathic images. They're far more intelligent than anyone ever realized." He turned to his team. "Put away your weapons completely. I need to show you something." Over the next hour, Reed demonstrated what he had learned. He showed them how Swift could understand complex ideas, how the mental images conveyed detailed information, and how the pattern language worked. The other shadow hunters, seeing Swift's trust in Reed, began to approach the humans with curiosity instead of aggression. "This is incredible," Lisa said, carefully scanning one of the shadow hunters with Reed's permission. "Their brain structure is amazingly complex. The bioluminescent organs are directly connected to their neural pathways. They're not just predators. They're probably one of the most advanced species we've ever encountered." Through Swift, Reed learned more about their society. The mental images revealed a rich culture. Shadow hunters lived in tight family groups, taught their young complex hunting strategies, and even had their own form of art using their light patterns to create stunning displays. "But why do they attack other species?" Tom asked, still keeping his distance. Swift shared more images with Reed, scenes of hunters attacking shadow hunter nests, stealing their eggs, trying to capture adults for their valuable biological compounds. The pattern language could power advanced technology, and their neural capabilities could revolutionize communications. This had made them targets. "They don't attack out of aggression," Reed explained to his team. "They attack because they've been hunted nearly to extinction in some sectors. Everything we thought we knew about them was wrong. They're not mindless killers. They're survivors protecting their families." The largest of the newly arrived shadow hunters, clearly the pack leader, approached Reed. Its patterns shifted in a complex sequence, and Reed felt a powerful mental connection form. Images flowed into his mind. Centuries of history, showing peaceful encounters with ancient civilizations before the hunting began, sharing of knowledge and technology, and hope for a return to those better times. "They want to trust us," Reed said, amazed. "They're willing to try forming an alliance if we can prove we're different from the hunters." Lisa was already recording everything on her tablet. "This could change everything we thought we knew about interspecies relations if we can establish proper communication protocols." A sharp alarm from Tom's scanner interrupted her. "Commander, we got incoming ships. 3 of them not responding to identification requests." The shadow hunters' patterns instantly shifted to alert patterns. Swift sent Reed an urgent image. These were hunter ships, drawn by the energy signatures of their shuttle. "How long until they land?" Reed asked. 20 minutes, maybe less." Reed looked at the shadow hunters, then at his team. What happened next would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of human-shadow hunter relations. They could either retreat to their ship and leave the shadow hunters to face the hunters alone, or they could stand together. Swift's golden eyes met Reed's, and no telepathic connection was needed to convey the message. They had come too far to give up now. "Get me a secure line to the Pioneer," Reed ordered, "and tell them to ready all defensive systems. We're about to show the galaxy what humans and shadow hunters can do when they work together." The ruins buzzed with activity as humans and shadow hunters prepared for the incoming threat. Reed stood with Swift and the pack leader, whom he now knew as Storm, reviewing their hastily made defense plans through shared mental images. "The hunters' ships are entering the atmosphere," Tom reported, checking his scanner. "Their weapons are hot. They're not even trying to hide their intentions." Through Swift, Reed saw images of the hunters' usual tactics: stun nets, sonic weapons designed to disrupt the shadow hunters by luminescent patterns, and cruel capture devices. But this time, things would be different. "Pioneer Actual, this is Commander Reed." He spoke into his radio. "Begin Operation Sanctuary. Remember, non-lethal measures only." The massive research vessel, hidden in the clouds above, acknowledged the order. Storm's patterns pulsed with tactical information, showing Reed their plan. The shadow hunters would use the ruins' layout to their advantage, turning the hunters' trap into their own. Through their mental link, Reed felt their excitement. For the first time, they weren't running from the hunters. 3 minutes to landing, Lisa announced. "They're setting down in 3 different locations around the ruins." Reed nodded. "Just as we expected." "Tom, are the sonic shields ready?" "Yes, sir. Modified from our communication arrays. They should protect both us and the shadow hunters from their weapons." The first hunter ship landed with a roar of engines. Through the ruins' broken windows, Reed could see heavily armed figures emerging, carrying large nets and scanning equipment. The hunters wore sleek armor covered in trophy marks, kills they had made, species they had captured. Storm's patterns flashed a signal, and the shadow hunters moved like shadows through the ruins, their natural camouflage making them nearly invisible. Reed's team activated their modified shields, creating safe zones throughout their planned attack route. The hunters' voices echoed through the ruins. Multiple signatures. At least 5 shadow hunters, plus some other life forms. Probably local wildlife. "Prepare the neural disruptors." Reed smiled grimly. The hunters had no idea they were walking into a carefully planned trap. He watched through his tactical display as the hunters split into 3 groups, each heading toward locations where they detected shadow hunter energy signatures. "Now," Reed commanded. The Pioneer broke through the cloud cover, its massive form casting shadows over the ruins. The hunters looked up in surprise as the ship's electromagnetic pulse disabled their weapons and communications. At the same time, the shadow hunters sprang their trap. Swift moved like liquid darkness, disabling 2 hunters before they could react. Storm and the others emerged from their hiding spots, their coordinated attacks herding the hunters toward the prepared containment areas. Reed's team used their own stun weapons, carefully modified to work with the shadow hunters' attack patterns. The hunters, caught between advanced technology and prehistoric predatory skill, didn't stand a chance. "This is impossible," one hunter shouted as his team was surrounded. "Shadow hunters don't work with other species. They're animals." Reed stepped forward, Swift at his side. Their synchronized movement made the hunters step back in fear. "You're wrong about them," Reed said, "and your hunting days are over." Within 15 minutes, all 3 hunter teams were captured. The Pioneer landed nearby, its security teams taking the hunters into custody. Reed had already contacted Earth Command, and the evidence they had gathered would ensure these hunters faced justice. Storm approached Reed, its patterns showing a complex display of gratitude and respect. Through their mental link, Reed saw images of future cooperation between humans and shadow hunters, of shared knowledge and mutual protection. "Commander," Lisa called out, excitement in her voice. "You need to see this. We found their ship's data. They're part of a larger hunting organization. This could help us stop shadow hunter hunting across the entire galaxy." Reed felt Swift's surge of hope through their connection. The shadow hunter's patterns pulsed with a new rhythm, one that Reed somehow knew meant friend. As the sun set over the ruins, Reed watched humans and shadow hunters working together to secure the area. In just a few days, centuries of fear and misunderstanding had begun to crumble. The galaxy's deadliest predators had revealed themselves to be something far more remarkable, a sophisticated species capable of trust, cooperation, and friendship. And this was just the beginning. News of the unprecedented cooperation between humans and Shadowhunters spread quickly across the galaxy. 2 weeks after the battle at the ruins, Reed stood in the Pioneers' main conference room, facing a wall of holographic screens filled with Earth Command officials. "Let me get this straight, Commander," Admiral Wilson said, his gray eyebrows furrowed. "You're suggesting we establish an official alliance with the species that most of the galaxy considers to be deadly predators." Swift stood beside Reed, its patterns glowing with calm confidence. Through their now strengthened mental link, Reed felt the Shadowhunters' amusement at the humans' continued disbelief. "Yes, sir," Reed replied firmly. "The Shadowhunters aren't just intelligent. They're advanced in ways we never imagined. Their pattern language and telepathic abilities could revolutionize our communication technology. But more importantly, they're a species that values loyalty, family, and peace." Lisa stepped forward, displaying her research findings. "We've discovered that their bioluminescent patterns can transmit data faster than our most advanced computers. Their neural networks are more complex than anything we've studied, and they're willing to share this knowledge with us." The conference room door opened, and Storm entered with Tom. The pack leader's presence made several officials on the screens lean back instinctively, but Storm simply displayed a pattern sequence that Reed had learned meant peaceful greeting. "The pack leader wants to show you something," Reed explained. He nodded to Storm, who projected a series of mental images that Reed translated for the officials. The images showed the history of the Shadowhunters, their peaceful origins, their advancement in biological technology, and how they were forced to become fierce warriors only after other species began hunting them. The final images showed their hope for a new future, one where humans and Shadowhunters worked together to protect each other. "They've already helped us track down 3 more hunting operations," Tom added, pulling up mission reports. "The hunters never expect their prey to have human allies. We've freed over 30 captured Shadowhunters in the past 2 weeks alone." Admiral Wilson's expression softened slightly. "And you trust them completely, Commander?" Reed smiled. "Sir, I trust them with my life. In fact, I'd like to propose something more ambitious than a simple alliance." He shared a quick mental confirmation with Swift before continuing. "I want to establish a joint human-Shadowhunter patrol force. We provide the ships and technology. They provide their unique abilities and knowledge of hunter operations." The room burst into excited discussion. Through their mental link, Swift showed Reed a vision of Shadowhunters training alongside human crews, sharing their hunting skills while learning to use human technology. "It would change the balance of power in the galaxy," one official noted. "Other species might see it as threatening." Storm's patterns flashed, and Reed translated. "The Shadowhunters say they've lived with being feared. They would rather be feared while protecting peace than feared for being misunderstood." Admiral Wilson was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Commander Reed, you and your team have achieved something unprecedented here. If the Shadowhunters are truly willing to form this alliance, Earth Command will support it." Swift's patterns glowed with joy, a feeling that resonated through its mental link with Reed. Storm moved forward, displaying a pattern sequence that Reed had never seen before, one that the pack leader explained was reserved for historic moments in Shadowhunter culture. "They're suggesting we start with a joint training program," Reed explained. "Selected human crews learning to work with Shadowhunter partners. The Pioneer can serve as the first training vessel." "Approved," Admiral Wilson said. "But Commander, you understand that you'll be responsible for making this work. The future of this alliance will depend largely on your success." Reed looked at Swift, remembering their first meeting in the ruins. If one injured Shadowhunter and one human could overcome centuries of fear and misunderstanding, anything was possible. "We won't let you down, sir," Reed said confidently. "In fact, I think we're about to show the galaxy what true cooperation looks like." As the officials signed off, Reed felt a wave of anticipation through his link with Swift. The real work was just beginning. but together, they were ready to change the galaxy's understanding of what was possible when different species chose trust over fear. 1 year had passed since the first human Shadowhunter alliance was formed. The Pioneer, now upgraded with both human and Shadowhunter technology, glided through space on its patrol route. Reed stood on the bridge, watching as a group of new recruits, both human and Shadowhunter, trained together in the ship's modified exercise bay. Swift, now the official liaison between the two species, stood beside him. Its patterns glowed with pride as they observed a young Shadowhunter teaching a human crew member how to interpret basic pattern language without telepathic assistance. "Remember when everyone thought this was impossible?" Reed asked, smiling at the memory of those first doubtful meetings. Through their mental link, Swift shared images of the past year's achievements. The images showed their successes. Dozens of hunter operations shut down, hundreds of captured Shadowhunters freed, and most importantly, the gradual change in how the galaxy viewed the partnership. Other species had gone from fear and disbelief to cautious respect. "Commander," Tom called from his station, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." The main screen lit up with Admiral Wilson's face. He looked pleased. "Commander Reed, your latest report has been approved. The Council has voted to expand the Joint Force program. We're commissioning 5 more ships like the Pioneer." Reed felt Swift's excitement pulse through their link. More ships meant more opportunities to prove their alliance worked. "There's more," the Admiral continued. "The Shadowhunter High Council has agreed to share their biotechnology research with us. Their pattern-based communication systems are already being adapted for our deep space networks. And," he paused, smiling, "3 other species have requested to join the alliance." Lisa, who had been working nearby, looked up from her research station. Over the past year, she had documented every aspect of human Shadowhunter cooperation, creating a comprehensive guide for future teams. "The galaxy is finally seeing what we saw, sir," she said. "That fear and misunderstanding don't have to define us." Swift's patterns shifted, and Reed translated for everyone. "The Shadowhunters say this is just the beginning. They've lived in shadows for centuries, but now they can help build something new. A galaxy where different species work together instead of against each other." The Admiral nodded, "Which brings me to your new assignment. The Pioneer is being tasked with establishing the first joint training academy. You'll be teaching the next generation of human Shadowhunter teams." Reed looked around his bridge. Humans and Shadowhunters worked side by side at various stations, their movements synchronized through months of practice and trust. Storm's eldest offspring was learning navigation from Tom. Lisa had mastered basic pattern communication and was teaching it to new human recruits. "We accept the assignment, sir," Reed said. "When do we begin?" "As soon as you reach Earth. The facility is almost ready." The Admiral's expression grew serious. "You've changed history, Commander. A year ago, no one would have believed this was possible. Now, it's becoming the new normal." After the Admiral signed off, Reed felt a familiar touch in his mind. Swift was sharing a vision of the future. Ships crewed by multiple species, hunting parties replaced by exploration teams, the pattern language becoming a universal method of communication. "Commander," called one of the new human recruits, "the Shadowhunters want to show us something in the training bay. They say it's a traditional celebration pattern." Reed laughed. The Shadowhunters had recently started sharing their cultural traditions with the crew. "Well, we better not keep them waiting." As they walked to the training bay, Reed remembered that moment in the ruins when he'd first decided to help an injured Shadowhunter. One simple act of kindness had sparked a change that was still spreading across the galaxy. In the training bay, humans and Shadowhunters gathered together as the pack performed their celebration pattern dance, their bioluminescent displays filling the room with shifting lights. Reed felt Swift's contentment through their link. "You know," Reed said quietly to his friend, "they used to call you the galaxy's most lethal predators. Now they call you our most valuable allies." Swift's patterns rippled with amusement, sending Reed a final thought. Sometimes the deadliest predator could become the most loyal friend. All it took was one person willing to look past the fear and see the truth. The future was bright, and it glowed with patterns of hope.